Okay, I'll call the meeting of Quesnel City Council to order. I do recognize that we meet on the traditional territory of the LHTAKO DENE Nation. With respect to the agenda, there are no additions or deletions to the agenda, so if I can have a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Runch so moved. Councillor Vick second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. With respect to the adoption of the regular minutes of February 1st, there is a correction on page 6 of 63. On item 220557, so at the very bottom, you can see it's carried unanimously, which is the default position in the notes, and whereas opposed. So it should just read carried and the word unanimously removed. And then Councillor Paul's opposition is so noted. So with that adjustment to the minutes, can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Councillor Paul so moved. Councillor Elliott second. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. All right. I see a whole bunch of names in front of me, and if you guys can turn your, I guess, Chris, are you going to be the one that's going to be leading?
Yes, I will.
Perfect. And now we're going to see your pretty face. There we go. No, not.
There you go.
There we go, Chris. Hello, buddy. Long time no see.
Yeah, long time.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'll turn it over to you. The floor is yours. We don't have a big agenda tonight, and council is quite interested in your project, so you can relax into it, take us through your slides, and then leave room for Q&A. So over to you, Chris.
Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Simpson and councillors for the City of Quesnel. We're going to be giving you an update on our project, Cariboo Gold project in Wells and at QR, close by to yourselves there in Quesnel. So I'm going to start first, just a little update. We are operating right now the Bonanza Ledge Mine and the QR Mill. We have about 145 people employed between both sites on all shifts and cross shifts. About a $1.4 million payroll a month. These are people principally from the area. Some of the contractors the mining contractors come from other parts of BC and Canada, but people are working there in the region, about 145 presently, mainly the mining, and there's some permitting and sustainability and exploration people also there. So we'll jump into the project to explain our infrastructure and where we are with the project right now. So just go to Wells first. The project in Wells is using the historic area of the old Cariboo coal quartz and Orem mines. So the areas that were impacted by those mines, basically they were around what the town of Wells was built in the 1930s around these two projects. So the central area there, you see in pink, right down near Jack Clubs Lake, that'll be our main work area with the concentrator building and ore sorting and so on. We have two portals, one basically right below where the old Island Mountain portal went in for the Orem mine. And the other one is in the valley, just across where the old, right close by where the old Cariboo Gold Quartz mine went in that Fred Wells put in originally. So those are our two main access points. We do have you can also see there the Bonanza Ledge mine and waste area up top. Further to the southeast there, in pink too, that's where we're presently operating. That's also where our waste rock storage facility will be. And our concentrate that we'll be producing there at the site will be trucked all the way to the QR mill, approximately 110 kilometers from there. The roads and services are being built so that they do not go through the town of Wells. We go onto the highway, then out and down Highway 26 till we get the turnoff to the 500 road. There's also going to be a transmission line, a 69 kVA line. We're working with BC Hydro on that to bring power out to the site for allowing us to operate there in an efficient manner, and also to reduce our carbon footprints where we'll have things like electric haul trucks and so on. But again, just to point out that we're using the legacy sites from the old mining as much as possible, and we plan on as we're going mining and that to reclaim those sites progressively as we go forward. We're also looking at worker accommodations on site there. It's a camp we're looking at right next to our concentrator building. It's basically right where our present Corp farm and many of our geology areas are presently located. That's going to allow us to house 200 to 220 people. And it's been designed by a local architect, a local BC architect that you're familiar with, Alfred Waugh, and working with a group in Saskatchewan that builds these structures. So this is more of a legacy. It's not a camp. It's not ATCO trailers. It's something that we want to see. That would be something that we could leave in the future also for the community of Wells as a useful building for the legacy of our project there. This is now zooming out a bit to show where we're going, so you can see Wells there. We see Highway 26, the transmission line. We studied three routes. This was the one that was chosen as its least impact on private lands, on areas of caribou habitat and other wildlife habitat, as well as it avoids any traditional grounds, such as barrier grounds and that, as to our consultations and so on with the First Nations there, and principally LHTAKO DENE, which helped to highlight the areas that we should avoid. So the connection will be at the Barlow substation near Quesnel that you're all familiar with, and then it'll go up along the highway, below the highway, cross over, and then basically take off along Tregellis Creek there, the Willow River, and then back over the top of Island Mountain into Wells. We are now in the environmental assessment process. We've been since 2019. At this stage, we're about, I'd say, 2/3 of the way through it, 3/4 of the way through it. So we expect to have an assessment certificate in Q3 of this year. Then we have to go get the permits that are required, the actual operating permits and so on that require from the Ministry of Mines and other ministries to actually operate that project, to construct and operate the project. So this is the first step here. We hope to have some construction starting this year in what we call early works, but most will be in 2023 and later as this thing ramps up over a few years. So this is just showing the environmental assessment process where we are right now. We're about, as I said, we're in this time area now where we've gone through our application development review. We're now answering concerns and questions. I think we're about 60% through those, and we hope to have those by the end of March completed and gone back to the regulators so they can now then start the effects assessment. And then for that we have another period of public consultation. And then we get issued an assessment report, and then finally the recommendation. That 150 days will be going into starting sometime in March or latest April will be 150 days approximately regulated. So then the decision is about 30 days. We hope to have that again sometime in the Q3 or Q4 of this year. There's a lot of information on the EAO, the Environmental Assessment Office's EPIC site that has all the information. There's thousands of documents there that explain the project, the impacts, the technical work done, and economic and so on. So I recommend if anybody's really interested, you can go through that if you already haven't. There's a lot of information there. It's quite accessible. We work very strongly with the Environmental Assessment Office. This is the first time a mining project has gone through the new environmental assessment process since it was implemented in late 2019. We had the option to go in the old process or the new one. We chose the new one, and so we're the first mining company to go through this process. Workforce. So the project right now we have about 145 jobs in the areas I've mentioned. We've been up to this year about 430 jobs for about a year till about September when we started pulling back as we finished our big exploration program and feasibility required work. And now we'll be going up again though once we get the project up and going to about 460 permanent jobs. So 75% of that workforce we believe will come from the CRD, the Cariboo Regional District, or the immediate surrounding areas, meaning Prince George and the areas to the south a little bit. But that's what we're focusing on. There will be a percentage, of course, coming from other parts of BC principally, and maybe some more contractors and specialists coming from other parts of Canada. We have a sustainable workforce initiative that's been ongoing for approximately 6 months now, and it's working with the College of New Caledonia, the Centre for Mining Excellence and Training out of Ottawa, as well as other partners. And what we're doing is we're training truck drivers, first of all, and now underground miners. And that underground mining program is presently our first graduates are coming through on that. And we're trying to get between 8 and 12 graduates every 3 months through that program, so they're qualified to work underground with different types of equipment. And that's probably our biggest challenge, as it is with any industry right now, is getting skilled workforce. And so we figured the only way that we can do this properly is really start training people locally as much as possible, and with a big focus on underrepresented parts of our society, First Nations and the women too in our communities, to get them working. We do have already quite a percentage of our workforce in those two categories. The economic benefits, just so you understand, this project is initially 15 to 16 years, but as I've explained to you, I think many of you before, is we're using about less than really half of our total resources that we have right now for the first 15 to 16 years of this project life. So, and there's really no bottom yet, or no end to the extensions of mineralization we see here at depth or along strike in this project. So the potential for having this here for decades more is very high, and that's the principal reason we invested in this project, is that we've seen the longevity in it and the ability not just to have a short mine life, but have something that is really a long-term value creator and community builder for the region. So the tax base over that first 15 years is about 1.2 billion, is what we're seeing there. And of course, we're supporting investments in places like Wells and in Quesnel, and our focus. So look at some of those investments that the tax, of course, will pay, but we are also investing in communities ourselves, upgrades in Wells. And we're also looking at housing. I know that was one of the questions. We do have a housing plan in Wells. We presently have 8 or 9 houses that we've put into Wells, bought or built and fixed up older houses and built new ones in Wells. And we're looking at now what we'll do with Quesnel. We're waiting for our permits to come through, but we plan that there'll be a certain percentage of the workforce, as there is now, as alleged, that we'll be working from Quesnel. I know there was a question also before about an office in Quesnel. We were looking at having one last year. Set up there. The building that we wanted to get turned out to be not available for us. So we're still looking at the potential to have that office there. Maybe not right in the first 6 to 8 months of this year, but as we get closer to the final permitting to set that up, principally for logistics, administration, and so on. Where we have a lot of this time where a lot of people don't have to come to site every day to work. They can do a lot of that from Quesnel, where we have of course a larger population base and better access to services. This is kind of a general overview from our economic study, where we think a lot of our supplies and vendors will be located. So that we feel there's about 700 different suppliers for a mining project like this. So this is from catering services to parts and fuel and so on, specialist services and so on. So about 192 of those exist for us in the Cariboo region of the 700 total. And over time, I'm sure that will increase as people see the advantage to have more direct representation in the Cariboo, these suppliers. To date, we spent about $40 million on local suppliers from the region, as I think I was at the end of November for the project, and we're continuing obviously to build on that with a lot of the quality suppliers that exist in Quesnel as well as in Prince George and Williams Lake. Indigenous relations, very strong for us. We've been working with LHTAKO DENE, our principal partner on this project since 2016. We do have an IBA in place with them, and we have a liaison person in office there at their office in Red Bluff in Quesnel. And we've been working closely on all aspects of the project as we go forward into the Cariboo Gold project, as well as Bonanza Ledge. We are working now on agreements with Hartley and Williams Lake, also to have life of mine agreements or life of project agreements with them. Again, they're partners of ours as well. Hartley has the claim, and of course a strong claim in the QR area, and Williams Lake also in that area, as well as some overlap near wells and some of the exploration areas. And I think that just kind of gives you a broad view of what we're doing right now. I think what I really would like now is just to get questions from yourselves. And I got myself and Francois Vezina, who's our Vice President of Permitting, Environment, as well as our technical services for assisting any technical questions, as well as Kelsey. There's Kelsey, who's our liaison for community and First Nations.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And I'll open up the floor for council. It was a very tight presentation relative to what the chamber got, and on a comparative basis there. It was very good. Okay, council. Questions or comments? Councillor Elliott.
Hello again, Chris. Thanks very much for the presentation. Very informative, and I'm excited that everything seems to be moving forward. Just for clarity, one of the questions I get asked a lot is about the transmission line, and you said it's the least impactful, the way that you chose, but can you explain to me why, so I can tell people when they ask me repeatedly, why it didn't go along the road? Because a lot of people bring up, it just seems logical if it went along the road, then we could help out Troll and all of that.
Okay, maybe I'll let Francois answer because he's been dealing with it. Go ahead, Francois.
Yes, thanks. So in short, there's a couple key reasons why we're not able to put it on the side of the road. The first one is it is kind of in the standards of BC Hydro, the right of way. They want to keep the existing line there, and putting another line that would provide more power to us, because we need more power, would increase substantially the right of way on the other side. And this makes one of, I wouldn't say a technical problem, because we had a discussion at the Chamber of Commerce that we could make it work, but the right of way or the area required would be substantial. The second thing, MOTI, the Ministry of Transport, doesn't allow to have private line built on the side. So it would require BC Hydro seal on it. So it's, I don't know if I make myself clear, but it doesn't fit the standards of BC Hydro, and MOTI doesn't allow us to build a private line on that side. The second one that's really important is there's some burial site from the LHTAKO DENE Nation on the side of the road that makes it, impossible to avoid also to build a power line there. So we've had that information in the last couple of months, and we've added that in our application. So I don't know if this answers your question.
It certainly does, Francois. Thank you very much for that. Another thing, just for my knowledge, why such a distance to the QR mill? I don't know why it's so far away. Is it just the noise?
You're talking about the power line or the mine site itself?
The other mine site, the QR mill.
Yeah, so this, if I may, Chris, if you allow me.
Go ahead.
Using the QR mill allows us to not have any tailings facility in the vicinity of the wells area. So the deposit is really in wells, but if we would build the standard mill, as you understand, I don't know how much you're knowledgeable of mining, we would have required to have a tailings facility in the vicinity of wells. And this would, it's a selection that we've made not to impact, more land in the area of wells. So that's why we're using existing facility. Yes, it has a downside that we need to transport concentrate, but we feel that this was less impactful than having a tailings facility in the area of wells.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's kind of what I thought. And lastly, before, well, I should say hi to Kelsey. It's nice to see you, Kelsey. But just curious if you're having any challenges with that new mayor out there, and thank you for the report.
I haven't really talked to him yet too much. I know that, Ed was on, of course, the CEO of Barkerville, and I'm on the board of Barkerville Heritage Trust, and that's where I know Ed from. No offense, politicians are going to be politicians, but so I can't say I have much comment on that. So.
That's okay, Chris. We're going to annex your mine and the QR into our tax base just for that comment alone. You haven't seen taxes come your way yet. Okay, Councillor Vic.
Thanks, Chris. Great presentation. As Councillor Elliott said, we're really excited about things moving forward. Scott kind of asked the question about the power line, and I have another one. I don't know if it would go to Francois or not, but I remember from the presentation you gave earlier, is that intended to be a legacy project, that power line, or is that still going to have to be removed when the mine is concluded?
I can answer that, Chris. Again, officially by BC regulation, and it's the same thing everywhere in Canada, for reclamation, we need to say that we will retrieve the line once the mine has depleted. That's the official answer. Our goal is to give the power line or to have a collaboration agreement or something to leave that power line because it's going to be built, it's going to be functional. So that's the aim, but officially in our application, and we're obligated to be, so everybody understand, we're obligated to say that we're going to retrieve it at the end and reclaim everything.
But what I'm hearing there is there may be an opportunity there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
definitely. That's our real goal. And Chris is going to, this and maybe the campsite also, that it's not kind of the regular ATCO trailer campsite. We are putting key infrastructure that we wish will serve the community afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we talked about the Chamber of Commerce. You remember, like, we need a little help in Victoria, I guess, with BC Hydro to look at how that power line can be more effective for the other users. But as a proponent right now, a requirement for our uses, we have to go under the act that we deal with, and that requires us to reclaim and remove things when we finish it. But yeah, there's definitely the potential to have the other parties work with us to make sure or to ensure that it has a good potential of becoming a legacy project or legacy energy source for Barkerville Heritage Site, Troll, and maybe one day Bowron. So.
Yeah, thank you. And then my second question is regarding the housing. You indicated that the on-site housing could accommodate 200 to 220, but obviously you're going to need more capacity than that for the entire workforce. How many of those employees do you see end up coming from Quesnel? Just so we can maybe get our heads around our housing needs and we can make preparations.
Yeah, I mean, so the way we look at it is that the campus that was mentioned, that's 220, and you gotta remember that those 460 people are not all there at once, right? That's the cross shifts and everything, so we about half that population of workers being there. But to answer your questions directly, we expect that during the project you're gonna see more than 50% of the workforce being based in Quesnel. That's where we see it. So again, why? It's pretty simple. You got hospitals, you got schools, you got the services. We'd like to see wells, grow in that, but it's obviously got limitations due to the present services that are available there.
Thank you.
Councillor Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. Very informative and obviously exciting. I want to just go to the power line. I presume that the power line will not be constructed until all approvals are in place? And what would
That's correct.
And so what would the timeline be on the construction of the power line once you get the okay?
You want to answer that, Francois?
Yep. So after we received the certificate of the EAO, the Environmental Assessment Office, we're going to go in permitting. So in short, it looks like we could start building, if permitting goes all well after the certificate, in, I would say, the third quarter of 2023. That would be the start of the construction of the power line. We are scheduling the construction would last 6 to 9 months to complete the power line and the substation that links the Barlow substation to our site.
Okay, thank you for that. And how wide would the right-of-way be?
Chris, you want me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's going to be 36 to 40 meters right of way. The route that we're taking, and we're having discussion with West Fraser, is going to be more than 70% on the side of forestry road, existing forestry road used by West Fraser. So that is about 4 to 6 meters. So we're going to increase kind of the footprint about 30 meters to 36 meters.
And finally, and I'm not looking for an answer right here on the spot, but I'm involved with the dog sled mail run, and I'm also involved with New Pathways to Gold that is actually developing what's called the Cariboo Gold Rush snowmobile trail all the way from Clinton to Wells. And it would be very nice to be able to link that through to Quesnel, more than just for snowmobiles, but for, all year round use. Do you think that there might be some opportunity there for you guys to partner with the local community to see some trails development on that right of way?
Definitely. We've been working with, in the Wells area, of course, trying to develop with various trails. We've supported the wagon road around Markerville itself, but we're looking at, and of course, the Snowmobile Club and the ATV Club and looking at the trails that already exist and keeping them upgraded. But we are looking at the interconnectivity. We've been approached not by many groups, sort of the Kamloops to what I call the Kamloops to Prince George corridor for recreational vehicles, meaning snowmobiles, ATVs, and other things, winter activities, mainly skiing and so on. So there's quite a bit of interest in it, and we've been supporting it. We will continue to support it, and we just need to have clear sort of plans so we know what we're actually supporting. So sometimes we get a lot of people applying for things or asking for assistance, but it's kind of just sort of, here it is. It's not really planned. We don't really know what we're supporting. So we're, just to clarify, we'd like to have people, when they do come and ask for that, to demonstrate what they're actually applying for and what the benefits are to the local communities and economy in the area.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris, and I appreciate your forbearance. I mean, council members need to remember this is a presentation of Quesnel City Council, not the Gold Rush Club, and we need to be careful in the roles that we play. So first off is getting through the permitting process and then into the construction. A couple quick things from me because I don't have anybody else on my speakers list. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what's happening on Friday at the college. I understand you have a graduating class, is that right?
Yeah, you want to go ahead, Kelsey? You get that?
Sure.
Is there, Kelsey? Yeah.
I'll go ahead. So part of our Sustainable Workforce Initiative, we did a 12-week underground mine training program that included both in-classroom and practical work on site, and their graduation is on Friday at 1 p.m.
That's awesome. And will that course open again for another intake?
Yeah, that's our plan at this point. But I just don't have a date for that yet.
No, that's good. And I think it's important for the community and for council to know about that proactive workforce development. And I think it's cool that you guys are doing the presentation today and you have your first graduating class from that program on Friday. So that's pretty cool. The other is, Chris, I think, from our perspective, we would like to have a bit more formal dialogue, if you can find a window to come and have a bit of a face-to-face around the things like the housing, potential office, et cetera. We were chatting with the mayor-elect of Wells and looking at potentially an MOU with Wells, because we have a lot on the go that's very, joint around wildfire, around that whole Barkerville corridor, around your operation, because both of our communities are going to be getting the benefits of that and have to manage the nature of the change associated with that. But in that conversation, it really struck the city manager and I that it would be good to have a bit of a conversation around that, because we already have a housing crunch. I think, you've already indicated any of that workforce that you're going to get there on what looks a very long play mine. The minute they have children that are involved in organized sports, they're in town, right? They just are going to want to gravitate. We also need some advice. We're in the process of shifting our entire strategic direction, our economic transition strategy, from trying to stimulate growth and make the investments associated with attracting residents to managing growth and getting insight from our major employers about the kinds of investments that help you to attract and retain workforce. So again, there's an opportunity for us to understand and work with you, and I would imagine Kelsey, on what are the kinds of things that people might be looking for in our community that we need to make sure is available. And again, a tighter relationship with Wells so that we're communicating and on the same page with helping to attract that workforce. So I think we've got some business to do, and I know you guys are in the process of getting the permitting and ticking the boxes and so on, but everything feels to me like you're on the path to approval. And so at some point during this year and towards the end of the year in particular, sitting down and having some planning meetings together, I think would be really helpful.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I'm available, Bob, most of the time to come to Quesnel. I spend a lot of my time in Wells or Barkerville, where I have my place out there. So yeah, we can set up something over these next couple of months so we can sit down face to face. I think we're going to get over this COVID situation fairly quickly. That's the general feeling I got. So
yeah, we just need a few truckers to drive through town more, and then it'll all be gone. But anyway, I think that would be good, Chris, because part of what we're doing just now is we have quite a housing play on. We've got the direction of council to resource that housing play a bit more. So we do have things like land we're putting on the table, tax incentives we're putting on the table, and we're really trying to land that first market housing developer, because we believe if we can land that first market play, then the whole development market will see how quickly that's going to get bought up and start to get the kinds of investments at the order of magnitude that we need. So I'd be happy to do that. And we've got some ideas around your office space and stuff that we would like to chat with you about. So we'll make arrangements to talk in the next couple of months.
Okay. Yeah, I think just to clarify on that housing, so the camp we got there, people, we're building a really nice camp, and it's a permanent thing. It's a 50-year building. It's going to be there a long time. It's a really nice building, but it's a camp. Yeah. So we're initially going to attract people in the camp, but as people settle into the job and it becomes more stable for them, they're going to start looking for their own places. That's typically what happens in these mining situations, as they start seeing the longevity, the stability, and then they start looking for their places. And so Quesnel is going to be a key factor in this.
Yeah, and I happen to have a bit of a history. As you guys know, I was with Brenda Mines as a summer student. My dad was a tailings boss. And if you actually look at the history of Peachland, Peachland was only along the lake until Brenda went into full operation. Most of the people were going back and forth until they said, I don't want to drive back and forth. And the entire bench and everything all around Peachland was built around that mine, right? So that idea of getting, living in the area, I think is important. Wells, of course, has such tight constraints on land availability that that's just not going to be a real option for them at a large scale. So we're going to have to pick that up, and we're going to have to plan that and make that happen, right? So we've got lots to discuss, and I look forward to really formalizing those discussions over the next few months. Any further questions or comments from council? Okay, great. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us tonight. And we won't annex you yet. We'll wait until you're actually got production and getting money going, and then we'll start stealing the money. And I'm actually, there's a bit of a joke in that, but I don't know if you know the history of the city of Quesnel. If you actually take a look at a map of the municipal boundaries of the city of Quesnel, you'll see a portion of our municipal boundary actually goes down the middle of the Fraser River and just does a little tiny dog leg in and takes the plywood plant in and comes back and comes across over onto the Coraloo school side. But that little dog leg for the Weldwood plywood plant, or now West Fraser plywood plant, was a very deliberate move on the part of a previous council to get that industrial enterprise into our tax base. So be careful, just saying.
Yeah, well, Whitehorse did the same thing many years ago with Whitehorse Copper. They added about 10,000 square kilometers or something. It was crazy amount to get that in the city limits. So,
okay, well, staff are making notes. You can't see them. They're writing down notes. Okay, thank you, guys. Very exciting project. Cheers. And we're looking forward to working with you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, on to our regular business. The committee reports, Executive Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report is from a meeting we had a few weeks ago. I know everyone's already read it, but I'll just cover some of the highlights. The first topic we discussed was Minerals North, and we reaffirmed our interest in hosting this event in 2023. So Manager Reed is working on this, and she has some help with Charlene Lawrence. They did quite a bit of work for the preparations for the 2020 Minerals North, and some of those preparations will be relevant to a future event. So she will keep us appraised of her progress with that. Next, we went into the BC Winter Games Nominations Committee, and it's our obligation to form a nominating committee, and I'm updated that invitations have been mailed out to candidates. It's hoping that we can have a meeting by the end of February with this nominating committee. And if all goes to plan, we should have a permanent board for the games established by early summer. Then we moved into our favorite subject, the gold pan, and we talked about the gold pan lighting. The lighting itself is actually already there, and we discussed what's called GOBO capable lighting, which is short for Go Before Optics. And that, if you're wondering what that is on Reed Street, there's already some GOBO capable light fixtures which shoot a design onto the sidewalk, which you mostly notice when it's dark. So that's going to be the same sort of feature that will be, the gold pan will be lit up with, and we've made a suggestion that they use the same motif that they use on Reed Street, which currently is a wave-looking feature. And this will be set up and lit up soon. Then we went into the Riverfront Trail Kiosk Map project, And basically, the Riverfront Trail Network has many signs throughout the network which give residents information on where they are on the trail, et cetera. And these maps are very much out of date and in some cases not correct. So we had some discussion regarding the recognition of LHTAKO on these map signs as they're replaced. So we thought that was very appropriate. So when these maps are replaced, you'll notice that there will be a recognition of the LHTAKO DENE. Further, when other signs in the other parks and other parts of the community are renewed when they age out, then we'll also consider the same treatment with a LHTAKO DENE welcome. Lastly, we discussed the visitor guide, and as council remembers, we've opted for a different take on the visitor guide this year, and there'll be no longer a 100-page guide. It will be a hybrid model where we use mainly electronic media and our website, but it's supported by a nice, I guess, like a brochure. And we did see a mock-up of this brochure. It looks fantastic. And we just made a some small feedback regarding switching out one of the photos for something that promotes the arts and culture in our community. So that document and that brochure is well on its way, and we look forward to seeing it on shelves. And that was it. Thank you.
Councillor Vic. Any questions or comments on the report from Executive? Councillor Runge?
Yes, thanks for the great report there, Councillor Vic. I have a question with regards to the, I hate to bring this up, the gold pan lighting. It was tested, I believe, last summer, towards the end of the summer, and I'm not sure if we had any feedback with regards to safety features there. It's really cool when you drive by, but the thing is, it's so cool that you end up looking, we just have to consider how quickly that motif moves around, because what I noticed when it was going in there, you had a lot of cars kind of veering a little bit as they're looking over at it. So just FYI.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comment? Okay, we don't monitor that, and we have signs all over the place, so does Modi, et cetera, but I think it's something to take into consideration, right? Okay, go ahead, City Manager.
Sorry, just to chime in on that last topic. It is something that we do consider anytime there's an electronic sign facing the road. So when we do put a motif on there and we come to the final one that we're going to use, we will make sure it's not too glary and flashy in your face. We'll try to keep it more of down to duller tones. It's an issue anywhere you do have those electronic signs. So we've got some policy around that we'll try to adhere to on that gold pan as well.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, moving on then to our staff report. The Deputy Corporate Administrator. DCA. Go ahead, Ms. Hartley.
The purpose of this report is to consider proposed amendments to the various election bylaws and to consider proposed appointments for the Chief Election Officer and Deputy Chief Election Officer for the 2022 general local election. So I'll just go to the recommendations. First recommendation, that Council approves the Policy and Bylaw Committee recommendation to approve the following proposed City of Quesnel election bylaws as revised and provide first, second, and third readings under the bylaw section of the agenda. City of Quesnel General Local Government Election Bylaw number 1918 of 2022 and City of Quesnel Mail Ballot Authorization and Procedure Bylaw 1919 of 2022.
And we can deal with this, we'll deal with this in the bylaw section, but as council will note, the preponderance of the changes are administrative. They're just updating the bylaw numbers, et cetera, to reflect the new election bylaw. And you can see in red all of the proposed changes. So are there any, this is the time to comment on this, but we will do the actual vote at the bylaw section. Any questions or comments? Okay.
So we're still talking, if we look at page 47 of 63, this is all still part of that, correct? We switched over.
No,
No,
you're-
procedure bylaw. My apologies.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're into then the procedure bylaw. Okay. Okay, go ahead, City Manager.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think one part that is worth mentioning specifically is under the mail ballot voting. And so the rules around mail ballot voting have been relaxed. It doesn't have to be just in instances when someone is not physically capable of being there. And I think the rationale behind that is in particular with the COVID situation, and it's still a fluid situation, so that we want to make sure that in the event of a COVID type event happening during the election cycle, that we would be able to switch, depend much more heavily on a mail ballot process, just because it does provide that isolation, right? So if that's the case, then staff will make sure that we really focus towards that part of it. But other than that, it's mostly very similar to last time.
Yeah, the substance of the discussion we had for the public's edification as well as councils is we wanted to make sure that, while this is predominantly administrative and that one change on mail-in, that staff had the ability to ensure the highest possible opportunities or the most possible opportunities for both in-person and mail-in. So if you look at page 34 of 63, item 6, additional general voting opportunities, that's open enough that if for some reason we're into another COVID wave and there's some restrictions, et cetera, we can offer a multitude of advanced voting opportunities. It also gives the opportunity to go into Dunrovin and so on. So that flexibility is there. And by removing that restriction on mail-in, if we need to go to a mail-in, as was done in some places, then you can do that as well. So this bylaw gives us full opportunity to give as much opportunity for voting as possible. So, okay. So if there's no other questions, we'll vote that at the bylaw section. The next recommendation.
That council appoints Rhea Hartley as the City of Quesnel Chief Election Officer, and Rhea Hartley will provide a future recommendation to council for appointment of the Deputy Election Officer for the 2022 local government election.
Councillor Elliott, so moved. Councillor Rudenberg, second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you for that.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out, we were asked to bring back a contingency plan for advance and special voting opportunities in election staffing, allowing options in the event of issues that may arise due to COVID. And in discussions with Byron, we will determine the adequate resources required to ensure operational requirements are met.
Yeah, and that may be a budgetary thing or whatever the case may be. It may require a change, but there's budgeted allocation for it being an election year. So if everything goes according to plan, then the budget's there for it. Okay. Okay, good. So then moving on then, SIP, nothing was pulled forward from SIP. So then under bylaws, N1, the procedure bylaw. Now, we are going to have to do a rescind because there's a housekeeping change that needs to be made. And again, I go back to Ms. Hartley, just to be clear that it's just a section of the community charter that was not accurately reflected. So go ahead, Ms. Hartley.
That's right. So on page, oh, I don't have it in front of me. I don't have the page in front of me. So the one item that was misquoted was it was referring folks to a section of the bylaw that wasn't actually correct. It should have been referring it to section 133 of the community charter.
Okay. Okay.
I can bring that up. I know that's not.
That's okay. I mean, council should have had a chance to actually do the comparison with the published agenda. So I just want to make sure that it is a
Page 6.
Page.
Thanks, sorry.
Page 6. 49. Okay. Okay. So as a consequence of this, we need to, now, my understanding is we're going to have to do the vote on rescind, so we need the motion to rescind, and then we'll do the vote on second as amended, and then third reading, right? So that's the best way to do it for clarity. So a motion to rescind.
May I comment on
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
document to begin with? Just on page 47 or 4 of this report, bullet 3A, throughout the document we've been mentioning mayor and mayor designate, and this is the only time that I didn't see that. So I wonder if we wanted to pop that in there as well. Meeting may be held electronically in the event of an emergency during a communicable disease event as resolved by council as being necessary or authorized by mayor and mayor designate as we've had in the other ones. But just, it's totally.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think, though, there is a nuance when it comes to states of emergency, though, is there not? Like mayor and mayor designate is in the role of chair or convener of meetings. But this is in the state of making a decision about the openness and transparency. Is there a discrimination there? No, okay. I'm seeing that Director Bolton is saying no. So then that should then be changed to mayor and mayor designate then. That would be part of the change that we would make. Okay, everybody on track with that? I just remember when in 2017 we had a conversation about that in states of emergency or whatever, but it just could be my fuzzy brain.
That's true, Mr. Mayor, but just because it's a communicable disease event doesn't necessarily mean it's a state of emergency.
Yeah, it says a meeting may be held electronically in the event of an emergency during a communicable disease event as resolved by council as being necessary. And it's even, or as authorized by mayor. So in which case then it would be mayor or mayor designate. Yeah. Okay. So good catch. Okay. Anything else?
I'll move rescind.
Okay. So Councillor Elliott is moving rescind as previously voted. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Rudenberg. So on the motion to rescind the previous readings, any questions or comment? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. And then with respect to second as amended, and that would include the amendment as put forward by Councillor Elliott. So can I have a mover for that? Councillor Elliott so moved. Councillor Paul second. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? And then a motion for third reading. Councillor Goulet, Councillor Vic, questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. And then the election bylaw that we just discussed, this will be first, second, and third readings. A motion. Councillor Rudenberg, so moved. Councillor Runge, second. Questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. And then the mail ballot authorization and procedure bylaw for second and third readings. Councillor Elliott, Councillor Goulet, second. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay. No new business. No changes to upcoming meeting schedule. Changes to committee appointments, announcements, and future events. So just as noted, there is that graduation this Friday. That's the thing that I'm aware of. Gallery questions. Okay. So with that, I would note, and again, just a reminder to council, we are going in camera, so we're not escaping. Can I have a motion to adjourn the open meeting? Councillor Vic, Councillor Runge, so moved. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.